Commander Lee Hyun sat in the dark control room, watching the screens that showed nothing but empty space. It was a quiet Tuesday morning at the Earth Defense Station. He had been doing this job for 10 years, and nothing interesting ever happened. The coffee was getting cold in his cup when the alarm started screaming. The screens lit up with red warnings. Huge objects were moving into the solar system. Lee Hyun rubbed his eyes and looked again. The objects were bigger than anything humans had ever built. They were ships, but not from Earth. "Get me President Park Min-ho right now," Lee Hyun said into his radio. His hands were shaking as he counted the alien ships. There were hundreds of them. The alien ships moved slowly toward Earth. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. Each ship was the size of a small city, made of dark metal that seemed to eat light. Strange patterns glowed on their sides like veins of fire. On the biggest ship, Overlord Vextar looked at the small blue planet ahead. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. His people, the Kethrans, had conquered 17 worlds before this one. Each time had been the same. The primitive species would see their ships, hear their demands, and surrender within days. "Send the message," Vextar told his assistant. The message was always the same. Submit or die. It had worked every time before. President Park Min-ho was in a meeting about trade agreements when his phone rang. The voice on the other end was Lee Hyun, and he was scared. "Sir, we have visitors, big ones. And they're not friendly." Within an hour, every leader on Earth was watching the same video. The alien message was clear and simple. A tall gray creature with burning red eyes spoke in perfect English. "I am Overlord Vextar of the Kethran Empire. Your world will surrender to us. You have 72 hours to give up all weapons and prepare for integration into our empire. If you refuse, we will destroy your cities and take what we want from the ashes." The world leaders argued for hours. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Others wanted to fight. General Kim Woo-jin slammed his hand on the table. "We don't bow to anyone," he said. "My grandfather fought against invaders. My father fought against invaders. Now it's my turn." Dr. Yang So-young was studying the alien message when she found something strange. She had been Earth's best expert on animal behavior before aliens existed. Now she was learning about alien behavior. "Look at their previous conquests," she told the Emergency Council. 17 worlds. All of them gave up fighting within a week. But why? She showed them the data. Every conquered species had been more advanced than humans in some ways. They had better energy weapons, better shields, better ships. But they all stopped fighting very quickly. "Maybe they're smart," said one diplomat. "Maybe they knew when they were beaten." "Or maybe," said Dr. Yang So-young, "they're not used to fighting at all." The 72 hours passed slowly. Around the world, people watched the skies. Some prayed, some ran, but many did something the aliens didn't expect. They got ready to fight. Captain Choi Min-ah was in charge of Seoul's defense forces. She had 500 soldiers and weapons that were toys compared to what the aliens had. But she also had something else. She had a city full of people who didn't want to be slaves. "Listen," she told her soldiers, "we're probably going to die, but we're going to make them remember us." In Hong Kong, Sergeant Kang Do-hyun was setting up mines in the harbor. If the aliens wanted to land there, they would pay for it. He had been a demolition expert before joining the military. Now his skills might save lives. When the deadline ended, President Park Min-ho gave Earth's answer. It wasn't words. It was every nuclear weapon on the planet, all launched at once toward the alien fleet. Overlord Vextar watched the primitive missiles coming toward his ships. His defenses destroyed them easily, but he was confused. No species had ever chosen to fight when the outcome was so obvious. Usually they tried to negotiate. They offered resources or territory in exchange for better treatment. These humans just attacked. The first alien ships landed in 12 major cities at the same time. They came down like falling stars burning through the sky. When they touched ground, ramps opened and alien soldiers marched out. The aliens were prepared for many things. They expected fear and running and maybe some scattered resistance. What they found was organized warfare. In Seoul, Captain Choi Min-ah had turned every street into a trap. The aliens were stronger and had better weapons, but they had to come to the humans. Every building had snipers. Every corner had explosives. The aliens won, but it took them 3 days instead of 3 hours. In Hong Kong, Sergeant Kang Do-hyun's harbor mines sank 4 alien landing craft. The aliens had shields that stopped energy weapons, but they had never faced old-fashioned explosives hidden underwater. They learned quickly, but not quickly enough to save their first wave. Around the world, the story was the same. The aliens won every battle, but each victory cost them. They lost soldiers. They lost time. They lost the easy conquest they expected. Overlord Vextar stood in his command room looking at the reports. His forces controlled the major cities, but the humans kept fighting. Small groups attacked supply convoys. Hidden soldiers shot at patrols. Civilians threw rocks and bottles and sometimes bombs. "How many did we lose?" he asked his assistant. "More than in our last 3 conquests combined, sir." Vextar's red eyes glowed brighter. In 800 years of empire building, no primitive species had ever hurt them this much. These humans were different, and he didn't understand why. On Earth, the survivors were learning too. They learned that alien armor could be broken with enough bullets. They learned that alien soldiers got confused when humans didn't run away. Most importantly, they learned that the aliens could be hurt. Radio operator Oh Tae-kyung broadcast from hidden stations around the world. "They can bleed," he told anyone who would listen. "They can die, and we can kill them." The first phase of the war was over. The aliens controlled the cities, but they didn't control the humans. And in bunkers and caves and ruined buildings, the resistance was just beginning. 3 months had passed since the aliens came. Engineer Lim Ji-ho crawled through the underground tunnel that led to his secret workshop. Above ground, Seoul was under alien control. Down here in the old subway tunnels, humans were learning to fight back. Lim Ji-ho had been designing bridges before the war. Now he was taking apart alien weapons to understand how they worked. The weapon on his table was taken from a dead Kethran soldier. It was beautiful and terrible, made of materials that didn't exist on Earth. "The energy flows through these crystals," he explained to his team. "But look at this." He pointed to a small part inside the weapon. "This metal conducts the energy, but it's soft. Our bullets can break it." His assistant, a young woman who used to fix computers, looked excited. "So if we hit them in the right place, their weapons stop working," Lim Ji-ho finished. "Pass this information to all resistance groups." Above ground, the war looked like the aliens were winning. They held all the major cities. Their ships controlled the skies, but they were learning that controlling territory and controlling people were different things. Former Special Forces operator Nam Soo-jin was teaching farmers how to be soldiers. She had escaped from Bangkok when the aliens took the city. Now she moved from village to village, showing people how to fight. "The aliens are used to big battles with clear sides," she told a group of rice farmers. "They don't understand small attacks that come from nowhere and disappear." She showed them how to make simple bombs from farming chemicals, how to set up ambushes on narrow roads, how to hit alien patrols and fade away before help could arrive. The farmers were good students. They knew their land better than any alien ever could. Soon, Kethran supply convoys needed heavy guards just to deliver food to their own soldiers. The aliens tried to break human spirit by being cruel to prisoners and civilians. They thought fear would make humans give up like it had with other species. But cruelty only made humans angrier. Radio operator Oh Tae-kyung still broadcast from his hidden stations. His voice reached into homes and bunkers across the world. "They burn our cities because they're afraid," he said. "They hurt civilians because they can't hurt our soldiers. Every cruel act proves they're losing." His words gave hope to millions of people hiding in ruins and caves. They also gave them information. Resistance groups shared tactics over his radio network. A successful attack in Japan was copied in Africa within days. Dr. Yang So-young was still studying the aliens, but now she had real subjects to examine. The resistance had brought her bodies of dead Kethran soldiers. What she learned changed everything. The Kethrans were not natural warriors. Their bodies were built for precision work, not fighting. Their weapons were designed to kill quickly and cleanly, not to handle long battles. Everything about them said they expected quick victories. They're not conquerors, she realized. They're collectors. She gathered data from the 17 worlds the Kethrans had conquered. Each species was different, but each filled a specific role in the Kethran Empire. The Velkari were miners. The Thokani were farmers. The Juran were builders. Each conquered species had special skills that made them useful, and each had been broken and trained to serve without question. What were humans supposed to be? She wondered. Then she looked at how long humans had been fighting, how well they adapted to new weapons, how they refused to give up even when losing. The answer scared her. Overlord Vextar was having his own problems. His daily reports to the Kethrin High Command were getting harder to write. The humans should have been defeated by now. Instead, they were getting better at fighting. His soldiers reported strange things. Humans who should have been terrified were laughing at them. Human weapons were improving, sometimes using Kethrin technology in ways that shouldn't work. Worst of all, the humans were learning faster than the Kethrins could adapt. Request additional forces, the High Command ordered. It was the first time in 800 years that a primitive world needed reinforcements. War Master Theclon arrived with a full battle fleet. He was older than Vextar, with scars from the early days of the Empire when some species actually fought back. He looked at the reports from Earth and shook his head. These humans are thinking like warriors, he told Vextar, not like prey. On Earth, the resistance was growing stronger. Captain Choi Mina, now promoted after her defense of Seoul, was leading combined forces from 3 cities. They had learned to move like ghosts, striking alien positions and vanishing before reinforcements arrived. She met with other resistance leaders in an abandoned school outside Busan. The walls were covered with maps and alien photographs. Everyone looked tired, but their eyes were hard. The aliens are bringing more ships, reported a scout. Big ones. Good, said Choi Mina. More targets. The others looked at her like she was crazy. She smiled. 3 months ago, we thought one alien ship was impossible to fight. Now we're planning to attack fleets. We're getting stronger. She was right. Humans were adapting to war in ways that surprised everyone, including themselves. Blacksmiths were making armor from alien metal. Doctors were learning to treat energy weapon wounds. Children were running messages between resistance groups. The aliens had expected a broken people ready to serve. Instead, they found a species that treated war like a learning experience. In his secret laboratory, Lim Ji-ho made his biggest discovery yet. He had finally figured out how alien shields worked. They stopped energy in most projectiles, but they had a weakness. The shield reads the incoming object and adjusts to stop it. He explained to his team, but it takes time to adjust. If we fire multiple different things at the same time, he demonstrated with a captured alien shield generator. First, he fired a regular bullet. The shield stopped it easily. Then he fired a bullet, a laser, and a piece of hot metal at the same time. The shield tried to stop all 3 and failed. The bullet got through. Send this to everyone, he ordered. Every resistance group needs to know. Dr. Yang So-young was still worried about her discovery. She had figured out what role humans were supposed to fill in the Kethrin Empire. The evidence was clear from how the aliens fought and what they valued. Humans were supposed to be the warrior caste. The Kethrins were builders and organizers, not fighters. They had conquered their empire by being smarter and more advanced, not by being better soldiers. Each species they conquered filled a need in their society. But warriors were different from other servants. Warriors could learn. Warriors could adapt. And warriors who learned they were strong enough to fight their masters might decide to fight for themselves. The Kethrins had made a mistake. They thought they could break human fighting spirit like they had with other species. But human fighting spirit wasn't something separate from humanity. It was part of what made humans human. As the 4th month of war began, both sides were learning. The aliens were learning that conquest wasn't always easy. The humans were learning that they could win battles against impossible odds, but the most important lesson was still coming. Dr. Yang So-young was about to discover that Earth wasn't just another conquest for the Kethrin Empire. It was supposed to be their final one. 6 months after the aliens arrived, Captain Lee Soo-min was flying a stolen garbage truck through space. The truck wasn't meant for space travel, but human engineers had learned to do impossible things with alien technology. She looked at her small fleet of converted civilian ships. Fishing boats, delivery trucks, even an old school bus, all modified with alien engines and weapons. They looked ridiculous, but they worked. Target the supply ship, she told her pilots over the radio. Hit it fast and get out. The Kethrin supply convoy ahead of them was huge and well protected. But it was also predictable. The aliens flew in perfect formations and followed the most energy-efficient routes. That made them easy to ambush. Lee Soo-min's makeshift fleet attacked from 6 directions at once. The alien escorts tried to respond, but their formations were built for fighting other organized fleets, not crazy humans in flying garbage trucks. The supply ship exploded in a ball of fire. Lee Soo-min's pilots cheered over the radio as they scattered in all directions. The alien escorts were left chasing shadows. On the ground, the war was changing too. War Master Theclon had brought more soldiers and better weapons, but the humans kept adapting faster than the aliens could plan. Blacksmith Han Bo-Ra had learned to work with metals that didn't exist on Earth 6 months ago. Her workshop was hidden in an old coal mine, where she hammered alien alloys into armor for human soldiers. This metal remembers its shape, she explained to metallurgist Yoon Chan-ho. Even when you bend it, it tries to go back to what it was before. She showed him a piece of armor that had been hit by an alien energy weapon. The metal had a hole burned through it, but the hole was slowly closing as they watched. Incredible, said Yoon Chan-ho. If we can understand this, we can make armor that heals itself, Han Bo-Ra finished. Just like the aliens have. Around the world, humans were learning from their enemies in ways that scared the Kethrans. Every piece of alien technology that fell into human hands was studied, copied, and improved. The aliens tried a new strategy. If they couldn't break human fighting spirit, maybe they could break human culture. They began destroying museums, temples, and historical sites. The attack on the ancient temples in Kyoto was meant to crush Japanese morale. Instead, it created more fighters. Archaeologist Kim Na-yoon organized teams to save whatever cultural treasures they could before the aliens destroyed them. They're trying to erase our history, she told her volunteers as they carefully removed artifacts from a burning museum. They want us to forget who we are. Anthropologist Lee Dong-min was documenting everything he could about the aliens themselves. He followed resistance fighters into battle, recording how the Kethrans fought, what they feared, how they reacted when things went wrong. They're not used to chaos, he reported to resistance leadership. Their whole society is about order and control. When we do unexpected things, they freeze up. His observations became part of human battle tactics. Resistance fighters learned to be unpredictable, to attack in ways that made no military sense, to do things that confused alien commanders. The breakthrough came when communications specialist Seo Jun-sik cracked the Kethran military code. He had been a computer programmer before the war. Now he spent his days listening to alien radio signals, looking for patterns. I can understand their battle orders, he announced to a room full of resistance leaders. But that's not the important part. He played a recording of alien communications from deep space. The voices were arguing, something humans had never heard from Kethrans before. They're getting reports from other worlds, he translated. 3 of their conquered planets are having problems, rebellions. The first rebellions in hundreds of years. The room went quiet. Then someone started laughing. Soon everyone was laughing, even though they didn't know why. They weren't alone anymore. The news spread through resistance networks around the world. Other species were watching humanity's war and learning from it. The Kethran Empire, which had seemed unbeatable, was showing cracks. War Master Theclon was facing the worst crisis of his career. The humans were supposed to be defeated by now. Instead, they were inspiring rebellion across the galaxy. The High Command was sending him angry messages every day. He made a decision that would change everything. If the humans wouldn't surrender, if they couldn't be broken, then they would be completely destroyed. No more trying to preserve them for the Empire, no more measured responses. The target he chose was Geneva, the old center of human cooperation and peace. The orbital bombardment would be visible from half the planet. It would prove that resistance was useless. Nurse Jang Min-young was working in Geneva's main hospital when the sky caught fire. She looked up through the window and saw death falling from space. The Kethran warship above was charging its main weapon. She could have run. She could have hidden. Instead, she turned on the hospital's emergency broadcast system and started talking. "This is Jang Min-young at Geneva General Hospital," she said into the microphone. "The aliens are about to destroy our city. But we want everyone to know we never surrendered. We never bowed down. We never gave up being human." The energy beam from space turned Geneva into glass and fire. 1 million people died in 30 seconds. But Jang Min-young's broadcast, recorded by hidden transmitters around the world, reached every human settlement on Earth. The Geneva massacre was supposed to end human resistance. Instead, it created something the aliens had never faced before, a species that was truly angry. Within days, attacks on alien positions doubled. Humans stopped trying to avoid civilian casualties in their own operations. If the aliens would target hospitals and schools, then humans would target alien supply depots and communication centers. Former chef Moon Hae-jin had learned anatomy by cutting meat for restaurants. Now he taught resistance fighters where to hit alien soldiers to cause maximum damage. His classes were held in ruined buildings, and his students took careful notes. They have 4 hearts, he explained, pointing to a diagram of Kethran anatomy, but 3 of them are backup systems. This one here is the main heart. Hit it with anything sharp and they die instantly. Librarian Cho Yunji had memorized thousands of military manuals in the years before the war. She never thought the knowledge would be useful. Now she was planning battles using strategies from ancient Earth wars combined with captured alien intelligence. The Kethrans think in straight lines, she told Colonel Kwon Jae-sung, who was planning the recapture of Tokyo. They expect us to think the same way. But humans have been fighting sneaky wars for thousands of years. The plan she designed used tactics from medieval sieges, guerrilla warfare, and space combat, all at the same time. It shouldn't have worked, but it did. The aliens defending Tokyo were so confused by the mixed attack that they couldn't organize a proper response. When human forces retook Tokyo, they found something that changed the war completely. The Kethran Command Center had detailed files on every species in their empire. Information about their homeworlds, their technologies, their weaknesses, and their locations. Dr. Yang So-young studied the files with growing excitement. The Kethran Empire was bigger than anyone had imagined, but it was also more fragile. Every conquered species was kept weak and dependent. None of them had been allowed to develop their own weapons or ships. They're not an empire, she realized. They're farmers. And all their livestock is getting restless. The year of war was ending, but the real fight was just beginning. Humans had learned they could hurt the Kethrans. Now they were learning they could free the Kethrans' other victims. In space, Captain Lee Suman received new orders from Earth Command. Her fleet of converted civilian ships was being joined by bigger vessels, human warships built in hidden factories using alien technology. New mission, she told her pilots. We're not just defending Earth anymore. We're going to visit some neighbors. The Kethran Empire had ruled the galaxy for 800 years, but they had never faced an enemy that made other species want to be free. Now they had. 1 year after the war began, Colonel Kwon Jae-sung stood in the ruins of what used to be downtown Tokyo. His soldiers were setting up communication equipment in a destroyed alien command post. For the first time since the invasion, humans controlled a major city completely. The victory had taken 3 weeks of hard fighting, but it proved something important. Humans could win, not just survive. "Sir," called communications specialist SEO Jun Sik from his radio station. "We're getting signals from the Kethran supply depot we captured. It's not just supplies in there." Kwon Jae-sung walked over to look at the translated alien documents. His eyes widened. The depot wasn't just storing weapons and food, it was holding prisoners from dozens of different worlds. "Get Admiral Choi on the line," he ordered. "She needs to see this." Admiral Choi Min-ah, promoted after her successful defense campaigns, was commanding the human fleet from a converted alien warship. The ship still looked strange with its mix of human and alien technology, but it worked better than either species had built alone. She studied the intelligence reports from Tokyo with growing excitement. The Kethrans weren't just keeping supplies at their depot stations. They were keeping representatives from every species they had conquered, probably as backup rulers in case local governments failed. "That means they're all in one place," she said to her staff. "Every species that wants to be free, just waiting for someone to open the door." The raid on the supply depot was planned by librarian Cho Yun-ji, whose knowledge of ancient military tactics had become legendary among human forces. She combined strategies from 6 different historical periods with intelligence about alien defenses. "We hit them from 3 directions at once," she explained to the assembled commanders. "But not the directions they expect. Above, below, and through their own supply tunnels." The attack force included human marines led by General Kang Do-hyun, the former demolition expert who had learned to fight in 3 dimensions. His soldiers flew captured alien ships and wore armor made by blacksmith Han Bo-ra from materials that didn't exist in nature. The battle for the depot was short but fierce. The Kethrans had expected an attack, but not one that came from inside their own supply lines. Human engineers, led by Lim Ji-ho, had figured out how to use alien transportation tunnels to move troops instantly across the battlefield. When the shooting stopped, the humans found something that changed everything. The depot held more than supplies and prisoners. It held the representatives of every conquered species, kept as living libraries of their people's knowledge and culture. Among them was Keltar, a member of the Velkari species that had been the first to fall to the Kethran Empire 800 years ago. He was old and broken, but his eyes lit up when he saw humans fighting alien guards. "You're the ones," he whispered in accented English that he had learned from intercepted human broadcasts. "The ones who won't quit fighting." Dr. Yang So-young examined Keltar and the other rescued prisoners. Each represented a species that had once been free, that had once had their own governments and cultures before the Kethrans came. "How many species are in the Empire?" she asked Keltar. 24 now, including yours," he replied. "But yours is different, you keep fighting. No one has fought this long since my people fell." She learned that every conquered species had tried to resist, but the Kethrans had broken them systematically. They would destroy the military, capture the leaders, and then offer the survivors a choice: serve the Empire or watch their species go extinct. Every species had chosen to serve, except humans. "Why are you different?" Keltar asked. Dr. Yang So-young thought about it. "Maybe because we never had just one government to capture. Maybe because we're used to fighting each other, so fighting aliens isn't that different. Or maybe because we're just too stubborn to know when we're beaten." The rescued prisoners brought more than just information. They brought hope to their own species across the galaxy. Secret communications networks that had been silent for centuries suddenly came alive with messages of rebellion. On the Thokani farming world, workers began sabotaging food shipments to Kethran military bases. On Juran construction planets, builders started making alien facilities that would collapse under stress. On Velkari mining worlds, the tunnels began developing dangerous gas leaks that forced evacuations. The Kethran High Command was facing something they had never imagined: a galaxy-wide rebellion inspired by one stubborn species that refused to surrender. War Master Theklan received new orders from the homeworld: use any means necessary to end the human problem. If Earth couldn't be conquered, it would be destroyed completely. No survivors, no witnesses, no inspiration for other species. He began moving his forces for a final assault. Every Kethran ship in the sector was called to Earth. The attack would be so overwhelming that no human could survive it. But humans had learned to listen to alien communications. SEO Junsik intercepted the attack orders and passed them to Admiral Choi Min-ah. "They're bringing everything," he reported. "Every ship, every weapon, every soldier they can spare." Instead of fear, Choi Min-ah felt excitement. "Good. Then we'll have a chance to hurt them all at once." She was planning something that would have been impossible a year ago. The human fleet had grown from converted civilian ships to a real space navy. Manufacturing coordinator Kim Young-ho had organized hidden factories across the solar system, building ships that combined the best of human and alien technology. The final battle would not be fought on Earth. It would be fought in space, ship to ship, with the future of the galaxy at stake. Dr. Shin Hee-won, the psychologist who had become humanity's greatest expert on alien morale, was preparing her own weapon. Her broadcast to Kethran forces had been growing more effective as the war continued. "Look around you," her latest message said in perfect Kethran language. "You are fighting children and farmers and office workers, and they are winning. What does that say about your mighty empire?" Her words were having an effect. Kethran desertion rates were higher than they had ever been. Some alien soldiers were even asking to surrender to human forces. The revolution was spreading faster than anyone had expected. On the Kethran homeworld itself, civilian populations were beginning to question 800 years of imperial propaganda. If primitive humans could fight the Empire successfully, maybe the Empire wasn't as strong as everyone believed. Engineer Lim Ji-ho was putting finishing touches on humanity's secret weapon. He had spent months studying captured Kethran technology, looking for weaknesses. He had found one that could change everything. "Their ships are all connected," he explained to Admiral Choi Min-ah. "They share information through quantum communication networks. If we can get a virus into one ship, it spreads to all of them," she finished. "How long do you need?" "The virus is ready," he said. "We just need to get close enough to one of their command ships to upload it." As the Kethran forces gathered for their final assault on Earth, human forces prepared for the most desperate gamble in their species' history. They would not just defend their homeworld, they would attack the enemy's homeworld at the same time. The plan was insane. It required splitting their forces when they were already outnumbered. It meant leaving Earth partially defended while sending their best ships across the galaxy. It was exactly the kind of crazy, unpredictable strategy that had been driving the Kethrans insane for a year. Colonel Quan Jae-sung looked at the star charts showing both Earth and the Kethran homeworld. If this works, we end the war. If it fails, we lose everything. Then we'd better not fail, said Admiral Choi Min-ah. The final battle was about to begin, and for the first time since the war started, humans were not just fighting to survive. They were fighting to win. 18 months after first contact, Admiral Choi Min-ah stood on the bridge of her flagship as it jumped out of hyperspace near the Kethran homeworld. Around her, the combined human and alien liberation fleet spread out in attack formation. The fleet was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships flew alongside vessels from 6 liberated species, all united by shared hatred of their former masters. Keltar commanded a squadron of rebuilt Velkari fighters. Thokani agricultural ships had been converted into troop carriers. Even the peaceful Jurin had armed their construction vessels with human weapons. All ships report. Ready, announced communications specialist Seo Junsik from his station. Choi Min-ah looked at the massive Kethran homeworld ahead of them. 800 years of empire had made it the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy. What they were attempting should have been suicide. Begin the attack, she ordered. At the same time, Earth was under assault by the largest Kethran fleet ever assembled. War Master Theclon had brought every available ship to end the human problem once and for all. The space around Earth lit up with energy weapons and explosions. General Kang Do-hyun commanded Earth's defense from a bunker deep underground. The planet's orbital defenses were holding, but barely. Human ships fought desperately against overwhelming odds. Sir, reported a technician, we're losing the moon bases. Let them have the moon, Kang Do-hyun replied. Just keep them busy for 6 more hours. 6 hours was how long. Admiral Choi Min-ah's fleet needed to complete their mission at the Kethran homeworld. The attack on the homeworld was going better than anyone had dared hope. The Kethrans had sent so many ships to Earth that their own planet was only lightly defended. But what defenses remained were still formidable. Engineer Lim Ji-ho worked frantically at his computer station as Choi Min-ah's flagship raced toward the planet's orbital defense stations. His virus was ready, but he needed to get within range of a command ship to upload it. There, he pointed to a massive Kethran vessel near the planet. That's their fleet coordination center. If I can hack into that. The ship shuddered as alien weapons hit their shields. Captain Lee Suman, now commanding a squadron of attack ships, was clearing a path through the Kethran defenses. Almost there, she reported over the radio. But we're taking heavy losses. On the planet's surface, something unexpected was happening. Dr. Shin Hyewan's psychological warfare was finally paying off. Her broadcast had been reaching Kethran civilians for months, and they were having an effect. In the capital city, crowds of Kethrans were gathering in the streets. For the first time in 800 years, they were protesting their own government. End the war, they chanted in their own language. Stop the killing. The Kethran High Command was facing rebellion from within and invasion from without. Their perfect empire was crumbling. Above the planet, Admiral Choi Min-ah's flagship finally reached the Kethran command vessel. The 2 ships exchanged fire at point-blank range, their shields sparking and failing. Upload now, she ordered Lim Ji-ho. His fingers flew over the keyboard as he connected to the alien ship's computer system. The virus he had created spread through the Kethran networks like wildfire, carrying a simple message: surrender or die. But the virus did more than deliver messages. It shut down weapon systems, disabled shields, and opened airlocks. Across the Kethran fleet, ships began losing power and drifting helplessly. The virus spread beyond the military networks to civilian systems. On every Kethran world, the same message appeared on public displays. The Empire is over. You are free. War Master Theclon, commanding the assault on Earth, watched his fleet fall apart around him. Ships stopped responding to orders. Weapons went offline. His perfect military machine was destroying itself. What's happening? He demanded. Unknown computer attack, sir, his aide reported. All systems are affected. On Earth, General Kang Do-hyun saw the alien fleet suddenly stop fighting. Ships that had been firing moments before were now floating dead in space. All units advance, he ordered. Take them prisoner if they surrender. Destroy them if they don't. The battle for Earth was over. After 18 months of war, the alien invasion had been defeated. But the real victory was happening across the galaxy. On every world in the Kethran Empire, the virus was spreading the message of liberation. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were remembering what freedom felt like. The Thokani rose up on their farming worlds. The Velkari seized their mines. The Juran took control of their construction projects. Everywhere, the slaves of the empire became its conquerors. On the Kethran homeworld, Admiral Choi Min-ah accepted the surrender of the High Command. The alien leaders looked broken and confused, unable to understand how their perfect empire had collapsed so quickly. Why? Asked the former Supreme Overlord. Why did you fight when victory was impossible? Dr. Yang So-young, who had traveled with the fleet to study the end of the empire, answered him. Because for humans, freedom isn't something you calculate. It's something you believe in. The formal surrender was signed in the ruins of Geneva, where Nurse Jang Min-young had made her final broadcast. President Park Min-ho represented not just humanity, but a coalition of 24 free species. The document was simple. The Kethran Empire surrenders unconditionally. All conquered species are free. Never again will one species rule over another without consent. 5 years later, former Nurse Jang Min-young stood in the rebuilt Geneva as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Federation. The memorial where she worked honored all who had died in the war, from every species that had fought for freedom. Children from dozens of different worlds played in the parks around the memorial. Human children laughed with young Velkari. Thokani youngsters shared games with Juran cubs. The galaxy had learned to be a family instead of an empire. The war had cost humanity half its population, but it had saved billions of lives across the galaxy. More importantly, it had given every species something they had forgotten: hope. Admiral Choi Min-ah, now retired, often visited the memorial. She would read the inscription carved in stone in every language of the free worlds. They expected our submission. We gave them our answer. That answer had set the galaxy free. The humans had been right about one thing from the very beginning. Some things were worth fighting for, no matter the odds. Freedom was one of those things. And once the galaxy learned that lesson, it could never be enslaved again. In the end, the aliens had expected humanity's submission. Instead, they got humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy: the knowledge that no one has to bow down to anyone else. The empire was gone. The galaxy was free. And in schools across 1,000 worlds, children learned about the species that had taught everyone else how to fight for what was right. They learned about humanity,